It started like any other travel day at the bustling airport. The terminal was alive with the familiar sights and sounds, rolling suitcases clattering over tiled floors, distant announcements over the intercom, and the occasional bursts of laughter or frustration from travelers. People sipped overpriced coffees, browsed shops for last-minute items, and hurried to their gates. It was a scene of organized chaos, one that Maya Carter had navigated many times before. Maya walked with purpose, her heels clicking softly against the floor. She wore a sleek, tailored suit that exuded quiet confidence, elegant, yet understated. In her hand, she held a first-class ticket. This trip was meant to be a small celebration, a reward for months of hard work. She approached the first-class line, her eyes scanning the area. The line was short, with only a few other passengers ahead of her. Everything seemed routine, as it should be. But just as she reached the gate, her path was blocked. A uniformed airline staff member, a woman with a tight smile and a scrutinizing gaze, stepped in front of her. The staff member glanced at Maya, then at the ticket she was holding. There was a pause just long enough to feel uncomfortable. "Ma'am," the staff member said, her tone curt and slightly patronizing. "This line is for first-class passengers only." Maya paused, her calm demeanor unshaken. She returned the staff member's gaze with steady confidence. "I know," she replied, her voice even and polite. "I have a first-class ticket." The staff member's expression didn't soften. Instead, she reached out, gesturing for the ticket. Maya handed it over without hesitation, watching as the woman inspected it closely, flipping it over as if expecting to find something wrong. The scrutiny lasted longer than necessary, drawing the attention of others nearby. The staff member's brow furrowed slightly. "I'm going to need to verify this," she said, her voice clipped. "Please step aside for a moment." Maya blinked, her composure still intact. "Verify it," she repeated, her tone calm but questioning. "I don't understand. Is there an issue with my ticket?" The staff member didn't answer directly. Instead, she motioned for Maya to move out of the line. "Just procedure," she said, though her tone suggested something else entirely. Maya glanced around. She could feel the eyes of other passengers on her, some curious, some dismissive. A few exchanged knowing looks, as if they had already drawn their own conclusions. Maya felt a flicker of discomfort but pushed it aside. She wasn't about to let this moment rattle her. Stepping aside as instructed, she watched the staff member walk away, ticket in hand. Maya's thoughts raced, but her expression remained composed. She had experienced moments like this before, moments when her confidence and accomplishments seemed invisible to those who judged her by appearances alone. As she waited, she overheard murmurs from nearby. Two other airline staff members were standing at the counter, talking in hushed tones but not bothering to lower their voices enough. "People always think they can sneak in where they don't belong," one of them said, followed by a chuckle. "Yeah," the other replied. "You'd think they'd know better by now." Maya's lips pressed into a thin line. She felt the weight of their words, their assumptions. But she didn't react, not yet. Instead, she stood tall, her posture unwavering. Minutes passed, each one stretching longer than the last. Other passengers moved through the line without issue, their tickets barely glanced at before they were waved through. Maya observed it all silently, noting the stark contrast in how she was being treated. Finally, the staff member returned, her expression neutral but her tone still lacking warmth. "Your ticket is valid," she said, handing it back. "You can proceed." Maya took the ticket, her smile polite but firm. "Thank you," she said, her voice steady. She walked forward, her steps measured and confident, as if to remind herself and anyone watching that she belonged exactly where she was. As she entered the first-class lounge, she felt the tension linger in the air. The incident at the gate wasn't the first time she had faced such treatment, and she doubted it would be the last. But something about this moment felt different. It wasn't just the inconvenience or the indignity, it was the principle of it. Taking a seat by the window, she let out a quiet sigh, her thoughts swirling. This wasn't how she had envisioned starting her trip. But as she looked out at the planes lined up on the tarmac, a new thought began to take shape. She wasn't angry, at least, not in the way they expected her to be. Anger would have been easy, a fleeting reaction. What she felt was something deeper, something sharper. It was a resolve, a quiet determination that began to build within her. Maya Carter wasn't the kind of person to back down. She had spent her life proving herself in spaces where she wasn't always welcomed. This was just another hurdle, another challenge. And if there was one thing she knew, it was how to turn a challenge into an opportunity. The flight ahead might have been long, but Maya wasn't focused on the journey. Her mind was already racing with possibilities, plans forming in the back of her mind. She wasn't just going to move past this moment. She was going to redefine it. This extended section sets the stage for the story, highlighting the tension and subtle injustices Maya faces while hinting at her quiet strength and determination. It maintains intrigue and leaves the viewer curious about how she will respond. As the soft hum of the airport faded into the background, Maya allowed herself a moment of reflection. She had encountered countless microaggressions throughout her life. From boardrooms to boutiques, there was always someone who thought she didn't belong. Yet, each time, she had risen above it with grace and purpose. This, she reminded herself, would be no different. Still, the blatant audacity of the airline staff gnawed at her. She couldn't ignore the whispers, the raised eyebrows, the unspoken judgment etched in every interaction. They had decided, without knowing her story, that she was out of place. And for what reason? The color of her skin? The simplicity of her outfit? Or was it something deeper, a bias so ingrained that they didn't even recognize it in themselves? She straightened her shoulders, refusing to let the experience define her mood. Instead, she focused on the view outside the window. Airplanes, symbols of freedom and progress, lined the tarmac like majestic birds poised for flight. Yet, for Maya, this moment felt anything but free. The lounge was as luxurious as she had imagined, plush leather chairs, sparkling water fountains, and an air of exclusivity that made it clear this was a space for the privileged few. She found a quiet corner and settled into a seat, pulling out her tablet. She was determined to use this downtime productively. Maya wasn't just a traveler, she was a woman with ambition, and she had no time to waste. As she opened her email, a message from her assistant caught her eye. The subject line read, "Contracts finalized, congratulations." Maya smiled faintly. This trip wasn't just about relaxation. It was a celebration of a major milestone in her career. For years, she had worked tirelessly to build her business, a consulting firm specializing in corporate transformation. Now, with this new deal, her company was set to expand internationally. The irony wasn't lost on her. She had just signed contracts that would bring millions of dollars to her firm, yet here she was, being treated like an imposter for daring to claim her rightful seat in first class. It was almost laughable. Almost. Her thoughts were interrupted by the soft chime of the intercom. First-class passengers for Flight 142 to New York, please make your way to Gate 16 for boarding. The announcement was polite, almost soothing, yet it carried an undertone of authority that commanded attention. Maya gathered her belongings and made her way to the gate. This time, she noticed how the staff avoided her gaze, their earlier hostility replaced with uneasy politeness. She wondered if they felt regret or simply discomfort at being caught in their own bias. Either way, Maya had no interest in dwelling on them. Her focus was on what lay ahead. The moment she stepped onto the plane, the atmosphere shifted. The cabin was pristine, with wide, comfortable seats that promised luxury and relaxation. She found her seat, 1A, by the window. A small pillow and blanket were neatly arranged, and a glass of champagne waited on the armrest. It was everything she had paid for, everything she deserved. But as she settled in, the tension lingered. The flight attendant assigned to her row was efficient but cold, her smile tight and perfunctory. Maya couldn't help but notice the difference in tone when the attendant greeted the man seated in 1B, a middle-aged businessman in a crisp suit. He received warmth and genuine enthusiasm, while Maya was met with indifference. She exhaled quietly, reminding herself to stay calm. It wasn't the first time she had been underestimated, and it likely wouldn't be the last. But this time felt different. This wasn't a private interaction or a subtle slight. This was public, blatant, and demeaning. And Maya couldn't shake the feeling that something needed to change. As the plane began to taxi, she stared out the window, her mind racing. She wasn't angry, not in the traditional sense. Her emotions were sharper than that, more precise. She felt a fire kindling inside her, fueled by years of similar experiences and a deep-seated desire for justice. The flight was smooth, the kind that most passengers would describe as uneventful. But for Maya, every moment was a study in contrasts. She observed the crew's behavior, noting the subtle ways they differentiated between passengers. It wasn't just her; they catered more attentively to some, while others were treated with polite detachment. Maya took mental notes, her sharp eye catching details others might overlook. By the time the plane landed in New York, Maya had made up her mind. She wasn't going to let this experience fade into just another anecdote of casual discrimination. No, this was going to be the catalyst for something bigger. Underscore 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 on. Back home in her sleek Manhattan apartment, Maya wasted no time. She poured herself a cup of tea and opened her laptop. If there was one thing she knew how to do, it was research. Within hours, she had compiled a dossier on the airline, its history, leadership, financial standing, and customer complaints. What she found was both surprising and unsurprising. The airline, once a leader in customer service, had been steadily declining in reputation. Complaints about discriminatory practices, poor employee training, and outdated policies were common. Yet, despite these issues, the company remained profitable thanks largely to its loyal business class and first-class customers. Maya saw an opportunity. She wasn't just angry, she was inspired. What if she could turn this experience into something meaningful? What if she could take this airline, the symbol of exclusivity and bias, and transform it into a beacon of equality and excellence? The idea was audacious, almost absurd. But Maya was no stranger to bold moves. She had built her career on taking risks and thinking outside the box. This would be her biggest challenge yet, but she was ready. Underscore 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 on. Over the next few weeks, Maya's plan took shape. She reached out to her network of investors, sharing her vision with those she trusted most. Her pitch was simple but powerful: buy the airline, overhaul its culture, and set a new standard for the industry. It wasn't just about fixing a broken system, it was about creating something better. The response was overwhelmingly positive. Maya's reputation as a trailblazer and her track record of success made her a natural leader for the project. Investors were eager to join her, not just for the potential financial returns, but for the chance to be part of something transformative. By the time the deal was finalized, Maya felt a surge of pride and determination. This wasn't just a business venture, it was a statement. A declaration that no one had the right to make her, or anyone else, feel small. underscore 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 on. The staff member's eyes narrowed, their tone clipped and unyielding. I'm sorry, but I need to double-check your ticket. Please step aside. The words hung in the air, cold and authoritative, like a gavel slamming down in judgment. Maya blinked, momentarily taken aback. Her first-class ticket, held in her perfectly manicured hand, had been presented with every right and expectation of smooth entry. Yet here she was questioned, doubted, and now being asked to move aside, as if she were an inconvenience. Step aside for what? Maya asked, her voice steady but tinged with incredulity. She maintained her composure, her expression betraying nothing of the frustration bubbling beneath the surface. It's all here in black and white, she added, holding the ticket up as if to reinforce her point. The employee didn't respond directly. Instead, they gestured curtly, a quick motion that seemed designed to dismiss rather than explain. It's just procedure, the staff member said, their tone laced with a subtle condescension that Maya didn't miss. Heat prickled the back of her neck as she felt eyes on her. The glances, some curious, others judgmental, bore into her like tiny needles. Whispers followed, soft but loud enough to sting. She couldn't make out the exact words, but the message was clear: she didn't belong. Maya stood tall, her posture unwavering even as the weight of the moment pressed down on her. Was it her race? The simple elegance of her outfit, lacking the ostentation some might expect in first class? Or was it something more insidious, a subconscious bias that seeped into actions and decisions without those involved even realizing it? For a brief moment, she considered speaking up more forcefully. But then she decided against it. She wasn't one to make a scene, at least, not yet. Instead, she complied, stepping aside with quiet dignity. Her heels clicked softly against the floor as she moved out of the line, each step a reminder to herself that she belonged there just as much as anyone else. As she waited, clutching her ticket and standing slightly apart from the other passengers, Maya caught snippets of conversation drifting from behind the counter. Two attendants were talking, their voices low but not low enough. People always think they can sneak in where they don't belong, one said, a smirk evident in their tone. Yeah, the other replied, chuckling. You'd think they'd know better by now. Maya felt her chest tighten. She inhaled deeply, willing herself to remain calm. Their words were not just careless, they were cruel. They didn't know her. They didn't know her story, her accomplishments, or the path that had led her to this very moment. And yet, they had already decided who she was, or more importantly, who she wasn't. She didn't react outwardly. No sharp retort, no cutting glance. But something inside her shifted. It wasn't anger, exactly, though she had every right to be furious. It was something deeper, something sharper. A sense of resolve began to take shape, like the first spark of a fire waiting to be ignited. They had no idea who they were dealing with. Underscore 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 on. The minutes stretched on, each one longer than the last. Maya watched as other passengers breezed through the line without issue. Their tickets were barely glanced at before they were waved forward with polite smiles and nods. The contrast was stark, glaringly so. She observed the ease with which they moved, their confidence unshaken, their right to be there unquestioned. Meanwhile, she stood waiting, watched, judged, and ignored all at once. The staff member finally returned, holding her ticket as though it were a suspicious document rather than a simple piece of paper. Their expression had softened slightly, but there was no trace of apology. Your ticket checks out, they said, handing it back to her. The words were technically correct, but the tone was dismissive, as though they were doing her a favor by allowing her to proceed. Maya took the ticket with steady hands. "Thank you," she said, her voice calm and measured. But inside, her thoughts churned. Thank you for what? For doing the bare minimum. For subjecting her to unnecessary scrutiny and embarrassment. For assuming she didn't belong? As she walked toward the boarding area, she felt the stares follow her. Some passengers looked away quickly, as if ashamed to be caught watching. Others held her gaze for a moment, their expressions unreadable. Maya kept her head high, her steps measured. She had nothing to prove to them, but everything to prove to herself. Underscore 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 on. Once on the plane, Maya found her seat a window spot in the first-class cabin. The chair was wide and plush, with an adjustable headrest and a neatly folded blanket waiting on the armrest. A flight attendant appeared moments later, offering a pre-flight drink. Maya accepted a glass of water, her voice polite but distant. As she settled into her seat, she replayed the events at the gate in her mind. It wasn't just about what had happened, it was about what it represented. The gate staff hadn't simply questioned her ticket, they had questioned her place. Her right to occupy this space. And they had done so with a casualness that suggested it wasn't the first time. Maya glanced around the cabin. Most of the other passengers were already engrossed in their own routines, reading, scrolling on their phones, or chatting softly with companions. None of them seemed to notice her, and for that, she was grateful. She needed time to think. Underscore 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 on. The flight attendant returned to offer a menu for the in-flight meal. Maya accepted it with a nod, her expression unreadable. As the attendant moved on, Maya noticed something subtle but unmistakable in their demeanor. The warmth and enthusiasm they showed to other passengers seemed to diminish slightly when they addressed her. It wasn't overt, no outright rudeness or hostility. But it was there, like a faint undercurrent of indifference. Maya observed it all silently, her sharp mind cataloging every detail. The way they lingered a little longer at certain seats, their tone brighter and more engaging with some passengers than others. She couldn't help but wonder, was she imagining it? Or was this another layer of the bias she had faced at the gate? She decided it didn't matter. Real or perceived, the effect was the same. And Maya wasn't one to ignore such things. Underscore 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 on. As the plane began its ascent, Maya stared out the window, the city below shrinking into a patchwork of lights. The view was breathtaking, but her thoughts were elsewhere. This trip had started as a celebration, a chance to relax after months of hard work. But now, it felt like something more, a pivotal moment, a call to action. Her phone buzzed softly in her bag, a reminder of the emails and messages waiting for her attention. Maya glanced at it but didn't reach for it. She needed this time to process, to plan. She wasn't just going to move past this experience, she was going to do something about it. For years, Maya had navigated spaces where she wasn't always welcomed. She had learned to be resilient, to rise above the slights and assumptions. But this time, rising above wasn't enough. She wanted to change the system that allowed such behavior to thrive. The airline had underestimated her. They saw only what they wanted to see, a single traveler, easily dismissed. What they didn't see was the woman behind the ticket. The entrepreneur, the leader, the visionary. And that, Maya thought, was their biggest mistake. As the plane leveled out, Cruising at 35,000 feet, Maya leaned back in her seat. She accepted the warm towel offered by the flight attendant and unfolded it deliberately, wiping her hands. The small gesture reminded her of the privileges that first class offered, but the memory of the gate agent's scrutiny lingered, souring the experience. The other passengers seemed relaxed, flipping through magazines or sipping glasses of champagne. It was a world of quiet luxury, designed to ease the burdens of travel. Yet Maya couldn't shake the sense that she was being watched. Occasionally, she'd catch a fleeting glance from another passenger or notice the flight attendant's perfunctory smiles directed her way. The subtle signals accumulated like drops in a bucket, threatening to overflow. Maya wasn't the type to wallow. She had faced worse, far worse. Yet something about this moment felt pivotal. It wasn't just about her own experience. It was about everyone who had ever been made to feel less than, everyone who had been questioned, doubted, or dismissed for reasons beyond their control. Her fingers traced the edge of the menu in front of her, but she wasn't reading it. Instead, her mind turned over the events of the past hour. The humiliation at the gate. The attendant's careless remarks. The unspoken assumptions that hung in the air like a shadow. As the flight attendant returned to take meal orders, Maya decided to observe more closely. The man seated beside her in 1B, a middle-aged executive type, judging by his tailored suit and leather briefcase, was greeted with a warm smile. "Good evening, sir," the attendant said, her tone bright and cheerful. "We have a wonderful selection tonight. May I recommend the beef tenderloin? It's one of my favorites." The man smiled back, clearly charmed. "That sounds excellent. Thank you." When the attendant turned to Maya, the warmth dimmed, replaced by a tone that was polite but clipped. "And for you, ma'am?" Maya met her gaze evenly. "I'll have the vegetarian option, please," she said. The attendant nodded and moved on quickly, not lingering for conversation or pleasantries as she had with her neighbor. It was subtle, but Maya noticed. She always noticed. The executive beside her glanced over. "First time flying with them?" he asked, his voice friendly enough. "No," Maya replied, her tone measured. "I've flown with them before." "Ah," he said, nodding. He seemed to sense that Maya wasn't in the mood for small talk and turned back to his magazine. Maya stared at the screen in front of her, pretending to scroll through the entertainment options. But her thoughts were elsewhere. The pattern was unmistakable, and it wasn't limited to the gate staff. The same biases that had greeted her upon arrival were now playing out at 35,000 feet. Dinner was served on fine china, the kind that looked fragile enough to shatter with a careless touch. The food was artfully plated, a visual feast meant to justify the exorbitant cost of a first-class ticket. But Maya barely tasted it. Her mind was spinning, connecting dots, forming plans. She had spent years building her career, carving out a space for herself in rooms where people like her were often excluded. She had faced countless moments like this one, moments that stung but ultimately fueled her ambition. This wasn't just about her treatment today. It was about the broader culture that allowed such treatment to persist. The unchecked biases, the quiet exclusions, the systemic issues that no one seemed willing to confront. Maya knew she couldn't fix it all. But she could do something. She opened her tablet and began typing, her fingers flying across the screen. The ideas flowed freely, a mix of raw emotion and calculated strategy. By the time the plane landed in New York, Maya had outlined the beginnings of a plan. It was ambitious, perhaps even audacious. But that was who she was. She had never been content to simply endure. She believed in action, in change, in transformation. As she stepped off the plane and into the bustling terminal, the memory of the gate agent's dismissive tone and the flight attendant's indifference followed her. But so did something else, a spark of determination, growing brighter with each step. Back at her sleek Manhattan apartment, Maya wasted no time. She set her luggage down and immediately reached for her laptop. The city skyline twinkled outside her window, a reminder of the countless possibilities that lay ahead. Maya began researching the airline in earnest. She delved into its history, its leadership, its policies. She combed through customer reviews, looking for patterns. What she found was both infuriating and validating. Complaints about discriminatory treatment weren't isolated incidents, they were part of a larger trend. Passengers of color, particularly women, reported experiences eerily similar to her own: excessive scrutiny, dismissive attitudes, and an overall sense of being unwelcome in first-class spaces. Maya's resolve hardened. This wasn't just her story. It was the story of so many others who had been silenced, dismissed, or ignored. She reached out to her network, starting with a handful of trusted allies. These were people who understood her vision, who believed in her ability to create change. Maya shared her experience and outlined her